Have you ever really wondered if your life you're living is really yours, or if you're just living and going through the motions because it's the way others told you it's supposed to be, or that that's the way life is, that you're running on beliefs or teachings that you've adopted or learned from other people that are not yourself? And I'm here to tell you, it's right. You've been programmed. A lot of us were programmed. It's called domestication. And that's what we're going to dive in today is the shamanic teaching called domestication that comes from the Toltec tradition as well as core shamanism. At the end of this video, we're going to talk about a practice. If you're hanging out to the end of this video, we'll talk about a practice that you can actually use to become aware of your own domestication and break free from it and shift it. And these teachings will allow you to reclaim your power and actually create your own personal dream or the dream life that you want to have in this reality here and now. And it's about how all of us in this life are born as blank slated beings. And as we come into this world, we are taught things, we are domesticated. And by domestication, I do mean the same way we domesticate animals into pets. Through a reward or punishment system is what's given to us. We are either rewarded when we do something right or we're punished when we do something wrong. As a child growing up, parents tell us good boy, good girl, bad boy, bad girl. Don't do that. Good boys don't do that. Don't do that. Good girls don't do that. And you're either rewarded with love or hugs or a treat, or you were punished and a treat was taken away, or you were yelled at or spanked or stuck in a corner or whatever it was, depending on what generation you are, you were punished for the way you showed up. And so eventually you learn to show up a certain way. And if I show up this way in this family, then this is what happens. And I'm given and rewarded this way. And then if I show up this way in school, this is what happens to me. And this is what I'm taught. And so our focus is put in certain ways. When we first come into this world, it takes us a while before we actually get the chance to individuate. Most of us is just the way the world flows. There is a pattern to it, and you adopt the beliefs from those around you, from parents. It's sit here, focus on what your parents have to teach you. Sit here, focus on what school has. If you're in a religious family, sit here and focus on what church has. Now, I'm not saying that the domestication is bad, and I'm not saying that it's good. I'm saying it just happens, and then it programs you to show up a certain way. And you're always seeking these approvals, of love or acceptance or some kind of reward, and running away from rejection or punishment of some kind or some other negative aspect of the thing. And so those decisions can continue to be made. But sometimes we're making those decisions, not even sometimes, most of the time, we're making those decisions based on the way we were taught and based on a belief system that may not actually be ours. So as time goes on and we internalize these things that we've taught and we begin to show up in that certain way, it affects the way our life is. It affects what is created in our life. Now in core shamanism, we call this the personal dream. And the personal dream is made up of each person's unique perspective. And that perspective is shaped by our beliefs, our experiences, our stories, our thoughts. And then that creates the filter in which we see things. It is literally like glasses. I'm going to grab my pair of glasses here. It's like a pair of glasses. It's like you have these thoughts and beliefs that come in, and it creates the personal dream. So you put this on, and then this is how you see the world, is the way you see it at that point. And then, that lens might be green, it might be blue, it might be filled with shame and guilt, it might be filled with empowerment, it might be, I must always show up a certain way so bad things don't happen. It might be, I must show up a certain way so I always create good things. And it can be the same purpose and drive, just different stories. And so our stories create these lenses. And so it's asking yourself, is my life going the way I want it to go? Am I actually happy in my life? Is my life producing and manifesting and showing up the way I want? How's my relationships? How is my career? How is romantic relationships, friends relationships? How do I spend my free time? Do I actually enjoy what I do with my free time? Am I just doom scrolling and that's all I'm doing? Do I actually enjoy that? Do I do sports? Am I in a job or a career that I actually enjoy? Am I going to school because I want to? If you're in college right now, I'm not saying to not go to college or to go to college. I'm not giving advice on that in any way, but it's asking the questions of whatever you're currently doing in life, however your current life path is going, recognizing, is this my life? Because all people, all humans are dreaming at all times, which means you are creating at all times, which means the life you have, you created it, you attracted it. Now, there might have been some external influences that presented some things for you or some obstacles or some trials, but how you handled them and what you made them to mean about you is the story you've adopted. And so if you went through an experience and it really hurt you, and you've made that your story that I will never trust people again because this hurt me, then that is the world you live in where things are not trustworthy. Or if you went through something that hurts you and you go, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn better people skills so nobody can ever hurt me again. And I can be aware of how people are as well as so I can help other people to not be hurt. And then you live in a world of helping other people. But you both went through that same experience of something happened that broke your trust, that hurt you. And the story you applied to it created the personal dream. Now, part of this is what in shamanism is also called the dream of the planet. Now, the dream of the planet is the collective beliefs, the collective agreements, the collective stories. So the agreements we've made to ourselves creates the collective dreams. So everyone's personal agreements and the way they think about themselves, the way they think about others, the way they think the world goes, the way they feel like the world should be rolling and flowing, whatever the general emotions are, we're all connected in that way. And that all of our personal dreams bleed into what we're all experiencing. Because I'm going around in my own personal dream. You're going around in your own personal dream. And when we collide, we're in a dream together. We're no longer individual people. The best example of this is if you have Tom and Mary on the opposite sides of the room and they look at each other, it's Tom, Mary, and the room. But as they move closer together, it becomes Tom, Mary, room, Tom, Mary, room. Tom, Mary, Tom, Mary, Tom, Mary, Tom, Mary, Tom, Mary, until they're, and that's as they walk closer together and they get to know each other and as their experiences merge. Now, they're in the same room and everyone's kind of seeing the same experience, but they're feeling different things. They're thinking different things. And then when they're interacting with each other, even though they become so close that it's Tom, Mary, Tom, they are still having their own individual world and personal dream, but they're also creating one together as they interact and view things and put their energies together. That creates ripple effects. So as their words create, whether they're talking to each other, their thoughts about each other, their thoughts about things around, create a ripple effect. Now, this is actually something that, something people don't realize is how powerful our thoughts really are. And our thoughts are so powerful that they're not even like just in our own mind. They're out here around us and they can influence the people around us. Now, this may sound woo-woo, and it is in the spiritual form of like we're all vibrating at all times and thoughts are energetically going out and spreading around us. You have your own personal thoughts, but then in your energetic radius around you, you also have your thoughts. In a more practical way, if you want to look at it this way, you can look this up, but it's called an EMG machine or EKG does the one where they put the nodes on your head. An EMG machine is actually a dome they put around your head and it measures your brain waves. So one of them, they put the nodes on your head and it measures your brain waves. The other one's not even touching your head and it measures the same brain waves. How can it measure the brain waves if it's not touching your head? It's because those waves and electromagnetism exist around you. Okay, I'm going off track here. But the point is that from a physics side and a spiritual side, your personal beliefs create your personal lens, your personal experience. And those personal experiences all bleed in together to create the dream of the planet, to create the collective dream, the collective that is in existence, the collective consciousness. And so that's where cultures, religion, politics, education, shared values, creation, destruction, all bleed in together. The best way I ever heard this example was that when the world was in a state of wanting to come together and was very focused on brotherhood and finding common ground and aiming together, that's when certain cultures will have an ascended master appear. That's when they had like Buddha appear. That's when Christ appeared. That's when White Buffalo Woman appeared. That's when Krishna appeared. That's when Hanuman appeared. That's when different beings and other ascended masters have appeared throughout history, is when there was a focus in some way for what they had to bring and what the problem they were going to solve, but there was also a desire for connection and unity. At the same time, when there has been a collective distrust in each other and a way of separation and wanting to be as divided as possible and break each other apart and not stand on one ground, we've created the tyrants of the world. That's when we had like the Stalin, and we had Hitler, and even other conquerors and so forth, and like Napoleon, and I won't go down all the tyrants of the world, but those also created the time that we were viewing ourselves so separate and didn't have a desire to come together and become unified. We created tyrants in the world. And so that's an example of how the personal dream affects the dream of the planet. And so if you want to awaken the world, if you want to shift the world, if you want to see a more beautiful world, then it is working on yourself and shifting your own self and your own personal dream, because then that will ripple out into the collective and those around you, which then becomes bigger ripple effects until these become ripple effects of change and tidal waves of change. Okay, so the practice you can use to apply this to your own actual life. First, there's an awareness to this. There's 4 steps to this. It's an awareness, reframing, creating a new dream, and then living in that continuously and consciously, like being aware of it. So the 4th step is kind of just applying it over and over again. But so the first step on awareness practice is noticing a belief or a rule. A belief you have about yourself, a belief you have about someone else, a rule that you believe about your life, a rule you believe about this, what you think things should be, anything that has kind of a should or the feeling to it, or just a personal belief system. Look at it and that you live your life by and ask, who taught me this? Does it serve? Does it control me? Is this something I created? Becoming aware of those. And you can even journal about these, either pop open your phone and just talk to yourself, put it in an app, write it down. And then there's a reframing to this after that. So the reframing is that when you then catch yourself, if this rule or belief is, oh, this is not my belief. This is something I was taught to me. This is something that came from somebody else. And it's not serving me. Because if it came from someone else and it serves, then you can choose to adopt it into your belief system. But if it doesn't serve, then it's, oh, okay, this doesn't serve. And then it's you catch yourself in that self-judgment and you pause and go, okay, that's not my belief, but it's not, instead of as an example, if the belief is I'm not good enough, and you're like, oh, I'm telling myself I'm not good enough, that's the belief I have. Let's shift, reframe it to I'm learning and growing. I'm always becoming better. I'm improving 1% of the time. I'm 1% better today than I was yesterday. That, instead of I'm not good enough, is the reframe. So that's an example. You can do this with bigger things too. And then you write this down. So then after you're aware of it, you can write down a new agreement to yourself. And so if it's like, oh, my belief is that I'm not good enough because I was told I was a crappy singer and that I don't have good work ethic, then the new belief is, well, no, I can be a good singer because I can have good work ethic because I'm going to show up every day and put forth the energy to either learn to be a good singer or show up every day in my goal or up to my job and do the best I can every day. And by showing up to do that at all times, you're making a new agreement. So then you write that down of this is how I'm going to be this way now. And this is I'm choosing love over fear. This is I'm choosing my own path. You can write it down in that way of like my new agreement is I choose love over fear and I will learn to become a good singer. I will learn good work ethic. I will learn to be an editor. I will learn whatever it is that can flip it around. And I use the example of learning because it gives that flexibility where you're not stepping into like, this is it is, and you're not spiritually bypassing yourself, which there is power in just affirming something that you're aiming, kind of faking it till you make it energy that does serve. This is stepping more into an authentic version of it that actually empowers you up and breaks you free of the domestication and then actually reprograms you of going, I am learning, which means that you can always improve at it. Whatever it is you are learning to do. Even if this is, I'm learning not to judge others. I'm learning to see others as myself, or whatever it is. But I'm learning to not lose my temper in traffic. You can apply it in those kinds of ways. So that's the practice for you. There's another awesome video popping up here for you that dives more into shamanic practices that will help you improve your life and shift it greatly. Hope you're having an awesome day. Drink more water, get lots of sunlight, spend some time outside today. Peace.